Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. My name is Lasbat, Kabiawu-Mutiu. I'll be hosting this fireside chat. And with me in the studio is Mrs. Shakirat and Olajobi. She's a seasoned psychologist, parenting coach, and the founding president of the Association of Nigerian Educational Psychologists. She has empowered many with practical approaches to parenting and child development. Today, she will be sharing invaluable parenting tips to help us make the most of Ramadan despite the challenges posed by the current economic situation. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, ma'am.
Walaikum salam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Alhamdulillah. Just as a recap, this fireside chat is going to be on parenting tips and hacks to optimizing Ramadan amidst economic crisis. And the goal of this chat is to help parents foster a supportive and spiritually enriching atmosphere for their families during Ramadan. So to go straight into it, we have just 25 minutes more for this chat, this panel or this chat. I'm going to be asking that looking at how the economy is right now, and in the past, it's a thing that we parents who want to invest in Ramadan decor, buy materials for children to engage with during Ramadan. So probably while they are engaging in their activities, we have time to do our own ibadah. But then, how the economy is now, thinking, oh, how much am I going to spend on this and then that and all of those. So how can parents encourage children to engage in Ramadan activities and worship, even with these financial constraints we're talking about in the household?
Okay, thank you very much.
Over to you.
So the economic situation is something that we're all in. It's not like some people. It's even global. It's not just in Nigeria. And I believe that whatever the situation is, Allah is still in charge of it. One of the things that parents need to do is to help their children to understand that whatever the situation is, Allah is always in charge. So if we were going to buy Ramadan decor worth e.g. 50,000, can we create crafts at home using cardboards and paper and even use that opportunity to spend more time bonding with family instead of having to buy the already made ones? Is it possible for us that we would reduce some of the things we would usually use even in preparing our meals? And then, of course, the power of storytelling also comes in handy here. Our children need to understand that even the Prophet Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went through a lot of financial difficulty. Tell them stories of when his wife Khadija died, and there was a lot of financial challenges with not just him but the entire Muslim population, and how they struggled, but with Allah's help they were able to navigate. Those stories will help the children know that they're not alone. And I'm not of the opinion that we should hide the economic situation from children. You'd see situations where parents will keep trying to make it seem like all is well to the children, and then they keep demanding for this and demanding for that. We should carry our children along. This doesn't mean we're going to get them depressed or anything. We're not going to be complaining to them. We're going to sit them down, have a conversation with them, and remind them that Allah is always in his throne and is going to take care of our affairs. But we also need to play our part, and we are going to be cutting down on some things. We're not going to be losing sight of things like charity. We will still give out in charity, but charity doesn't always have to be so expensive, and it doesn't have to come out of something you can't afford. Even a smile is a charity. So we're going to come up with ideas, and you'll be surprised. Children are very flexible. They're not rigid like us, and they don't brood over situations for so long like we do. So before you know it, they're coming up with ideas and saying, oh, mommy, we can also do this. Ah, daddy, we can also try that. And before you know it, your Ramadan activities are packed, perhaps even more exciting than it used to be when the economy was not this bad. Of course, we also have to be prayerful. Let me stop there so that I can entertain more questions.
Now, Jazakumullah Karen, that was quite insightful. Okay, so I want also to talk about, you mentioned meals while talking, and I think that's like a crucial part of Ramadan. Some kids always look forward to iftar. Hey, after dates, it is this one, and then after that, I'm going to have yogurt, and I'm going to have this and all of that. What are practical steps or practical ways that you feel we can involve our children in budgeting and meal preparation during this Ramadan? Is there a way we can bring them in? You talked about carrying them along. So on this aspect too, how do you think we can do that practically?
Okay, Alhamdulillah, we're just a few days from Ramadan. We pray that Allah would grant us the mercy of helping us to witness this Ramadan and many more to come. So, if we're going to be involving our children in um, budgeting, making meals, and the likes, it's important that by now we are already having conversations with them, conversations around the meal plan itself. Oh, what meals should we be making during Ramadan? We're creating a timetable, we're involving them in it. With okay, so what do you think on Monday? What do you and then after that, we can also assign roles. Okay, Abdullah, you are going to be in charge of this. Fatima, you're going to be in charge. When it's sahur time, you're going to be the one to set the table. You are going to be the one to assist mommy in the kitchen to make the meals. You are going to ensure that all the drinks have been placed in the proper place. Maybe we're refrigerating or we want to make hot tea or something. So everybody is assigned a different role. And at the end of the meal, you're washing up today, you are washing up tomorrow. It helps them to own it. And when you involve them in all of these things, you realize that it takes off some stress from your own schedule of tasks as well. Of course, it's also very important that irrespective of their age, there's something we need to realize that there's something every child can do in the kitchen. Too many times we limit kitchen to just the girls. That's the first error. Cooking and planning meals in Ramadan should be everybody's business. Everybody should join in. Everybody should join hands. Rasulullah used to get involved with his family as well. So even our daddies should get involved. So the children should get involved, whether they're boys or girls, and the age is not a barrier. So even if you have a 2-year-old, if it's to carry the fruit basket from the kitchen to the dining, even if it's just that, if it's to just move the vegetables, and by the time you have children that are 6, 7, they can actually go ahead and do some. You have plastic knives that are not dangerous that they can use to help in doing some activities like cutting vegetables and some other soft items in the kitchen. But they can wash fruits, they can place, set the table, and just do slight things that little things you would call it, but it's a big deal to them because all of those things are also self-esteem building. And then it's important to have a conversation, a proper conversation, if not multiple conversations, on wastage. Food wastage is something that happens in a lot of homes in Ramadan and even throughout the year. So it's important to have conversations with our children about why wastage is why the family would have zero tolerance to wastage and we're not going to entertain wastage. Do not take more than what you can finish. If you need more, it's better for you to come get more than get so much. You fasted all day and so you think you're so hungry and you want to finish a mountain. It doesn't work that way. So when you talk about wastage, we need to remind them that as tough as we think the economy is, there's some people that they can't even break their fast because there's nothing to break the fast with. As we speak, we are preparing for Ramadan. May Allah spare our lives to witness it. But there's some people that fasted all year round, not because they wanted to, but because there was nothing for them to take. And their meals were affasad, and when they had one meal, they couldn't be sure of when the next meal is coming. We need to share these stories with our children. We need to show them videos if possible, let them know what's happening globally and even nationally, and even in their neighborhood. Sometimes some of these children do not know. No matter where you live in this country, I can assure you that there's a neighborhood close by where there's some people that cannot even afford one proper meal in a day. So all of this hopefully would help to involve our children in planning meals on a budget in Ramadan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And in fact, it leads perfectly into the next question. So you talked about involving our kids in what is happening in the environment, show them videos if possible, let them know that we are privileged to be where we are, right? And then now we want to ask about what are other means or other ways we can explore as parents to teach our children the value of gratitude and patience in this holy month. Because really, kids they can throw tantrums because they don't have a candy, or they won't have chicken. It's been a while we took chicken. It's always been fish. So what are strategies we can employ rather, to teach them the value of gratitude and patience?
Right. Thank you very much. I think one of the most fundamental lessons of gratitude in Islam comes from that Quranic verse. And I think one of the things we want to do this Ramadan is to help every member of our family. All the children should memorize it. And that's where Allah says, uh, excuse me, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم ولئن كفرتم إن عذابي لشديد. The focus there is on the if you are grateful, I will do more for you. So we want things from Allah. There's certain things that we want that we do not have yet or we cannot afford yet. The fastest and the best way for us to get those things is through gratitude. We have to, keep talking about this so that it becomes a part of them. And then, of course, we can plan to have gratitude sessions during this month of Ramadan where we're going to have a certain period, maybe after Fajr or in between Sahur and Fajr or after breaking our fast. But it should be a time that everybody is home, back from work, back from school. We sit down and we say, okay, what are you grateful for today? It could also be a gratitude challenge. If we have grown up children who are in the university and they're away from us, we can set up a WhatsApp group and call it Family Ramadan Gratitude Challenge. Every day you drop something. What are you grateful for today? And you can't drop the same thing that you dropped yesterday. So that way you're constantly looking for what to be grateful for. So that's one idea. They should memorize that verse. The second one is the gratitude challenge or the gratitude sessions every night. We can also have a gratitude jar. If we have younger children who are in preschool, lower primary, even secondary, we can have a jar that will decorate beautifully and call it the Ramadan gratitude jar. And every single day, you write something that you're grateful for and you drop it in the jar so that by the end of the month, maybe on each day, for example, we open up our gratitude jar and we read up all of the things that we're grateful for during the holy month. That's another idea. We should also teach children delayed gratification. I find in my work every day, working with children, teenagers, and parents, I realize that one of the greatest challenges that we're dealing with in today's world is the issue of delayed gratification. Most, our brains, the environment, everything is being wired to instant gratification. So one of the things that we want to use to help cement the idea of gratitude into the hearts and heads of our children is to bring back delayed gratification. So you can talk about delayed gratification. You can have sessions at home where you have brief talks, and delayed gratification is one main part of it. Because you see, when children are able to delay gratification, they become more grateful for what they have. They appreciate more of what they have. They become less entitled, and we're able to get them to think more about all of the things available at their disposal, and they're not constantly complaining. Of course, we also have to model that, because a lot of times, especially in Nigeria, constantly complaining. They've taken out to Timono Loki, pain. We say all sorts of things. Our children are picking on these things. They are picking on it, and we need to be very careful. So it's important that we are modeling gratitude ourselves. We're not constantly complaining. A mother shouldn't be saying, your father has come again, and the father shouldn't say, women and their wahala. Because what we're doing is we're modeling the complaining attitude to our children. It's not possible to be a grateful heart and be a complaining heart at the same time. So we want our children to focus on gratitude, focus on delayed gratification. We can even introduce some challenges and say, okay, you know what? You can, for the younger children who are breaking their fast before Maghrib, we can encourage them to say, if you break your fast at 12 noon, you get to take 2 dates or 1 date. If you break it at Dhuhr, you get 3 dates. If you break it at Asr, you get 4 dates. If you break it at Maghrib, you get 7 dates or something like that. It doesn't have to be dates. Anything that's affordable and at the same time available to us, just to help them improve in their ability to delay gratification. Because what research has shown is that the more the average person is able to delay gratification, the more grateful that individual becomes. So I think these are some of the basic ways that we can help our children to delay gratification during this holy month. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So, in fact, a summary will be that with little, we can do much more for the kids. But before we call it a day, I'd like to ask one more question. Looking at your expertise as a psychologist and a parenting coach, at what age would you encourage? I know kids are different, different environments, different personalities, right? But then, at what age do you think is good enough to involve them in fasting itself? How do you think we can go about it such that we are not damaging anything or we're not making them, hypersensitive about fasting in future? But what are the practical ways you think we can involve them in the fasting, the act of fasting itself? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that very interesting question, because people usually ask me this question and I say there isn't one answer. Every child is different and every child's threshold for hunger or to delay gratification will differ, even in the same family, even children that are from the same father and mother. But here are some fundamental things that we can consider. First of all, Islam is a beautiful religion that doesn't put pressure on anyone. Fasting is from the age of puberty, and there's no child below puberty that should be mandated by all means to fast. Our job as parents is to handhold them and encourage them to start fasting as early as possible. We can encourage with gifts, we can, try to cajole them. And let us realize that even as we do that, we should know that some of them will want to do it because we're trying to push them. And then we should look at their health and age. So sometimes, as much as you're trying to encourage them, you're still going to say, you know what, you fasted till Dhuhr, and that's enough because you're just so age. Next year, inshallah, you would fast till Asr time. Like that. We can even start from the 12 noon. And if they're going to go to school, we're telling their teacher, please, Fatima is fasting or Aisha is fasting. Once it's 12 noon, please let her have something to eat. And for some of those days, when it's 12 noon, you still see the child very active and you can say, okay, let's delay it. Let's see how far she can go. But you see situations where children will want to force themselves to fast, or parents will want to force a child to fast. And then we had a situation some years back where the child became hypoglycemic and she was going to pass out. And I said, it's not this difficult. It can't be this difficult. This is just a child. A 6-year-old doesn't need to fast by all means. And the mother said, hey, we're just trying to encourage. I said, as you encourage, you need to balance it. You need to watch that child. By the time you see your child just sitting there in one corner and not talking to anybody, you begin to want to ask, are you okay? Do you want to break your fast? Okay, can we try this again tomorrow? So if this child is able to do, first of all, let's wake them up for sahur. So when you wake up a child for sahur, a child should be able to try till like 12 noon. And then you're dragging it, gradually. Maybe the first 10 days of Ramadan, that child tried 12. And then you see that this child is usually averagely still active by 12. Okay, we can push it to Dhuhr time. Okay, and then by the last part of Ramadan, maybe we can push it to Asr time. For some children, it might not be first, second, or third part of Ramadan. It might be years. So the first year might be 12 noon, the next year might be Dhuhr time, the next year might be Asr time. Whatever it is, the important thing is we can't force them and we should encourage them instead. And even when they want to force themselves, we're there to help them balance it so that they do not harm themselves in attempting to fast. And we want to ensure that by the time that they are matured, by the time that they are supposed to be mandated to fast, they're already used to it, they're ready for it, and their intentions are clear. At that time, they're not fasting because they want any gift from you. At that time, they're not fasting because they want to feel among or tick off their logbook. They're fasting for Allah because they want Allah to accept their fast. So these are the fundamental things that would put into place, rather than a particular.
Now, thank you very much. I have a question from one of our audience, and it says, how do we deal with parenting exhaustion while fasting?
Okay, parenting exhaustion is real and it can happen even outside of fasting. It's tougher during Ramadan because you are also exhausted yourself. You're famished, physically tired. You're also trying to engage more in ibadah and all of that. One of the most practical ways is to engage the children. Children have energy. Some parents say, Kilum Shomoyi, what is wrong with this child? Always jumping here and there. If a child is a certain age and is not jumping here and there, there's probably something wrong with that child. So it's important to realize that this is They have the energy. So keep them busy, engage them, get things that you know will occupy them, because when children are bored, they become restless. And let them also come up with activities that they can do by themselves and activities that they can do with you. When you're planning your life as a parent in Ramadan, please include your children in your planning so that they do not make Ramadan, really hectic for you. So the best way to deal with parental exhaustion in Ramadan is to ensure you engage the children and involve them in the things that you're doing. Don't just say, oh, you want to cook and you don't want them in the kitchen. They are going to come and disturb you. They should get it. At the beginning, it might look messy, but I can assure you that the earlier you start, the better. Because when you start early, yes, it gets messy at the beginning, but with your rules and regulations, okay, when you're cooking, do not pile up your plates. As you're cooking, you're using it. Okay, you face this, you do this, you do that. If you have a small kitchen, you can extend some of them to use the dining. Okay, you go and cut up the fruits at the dining. You do this, you do that. And before you know it, there's a Yoruba proverb that says, which basically means that if you train your child early enough, you will have some peace of mind. So in getting, to avoid exhaustion, we need to engage the children and also delegate effectively to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. If you're just joining us, we've been with Mrs. Shakirat Olajobi, and she has been discussing with us on hacks we can use to make parenting easy during Ramadan. Okay, I have one more question, and I think that's the last one I'm going to be taking. How do we reduce transferring aggression to children when we are broke and yet fasting? Okay.
I laughed when I saw that question, because being broke and fasting is like a double-edged sword. But in all honesty, we can all relate to this. And what I think that is most practical is we need to continue to be self-aware. We need to continue to pay attention to our own mood and to ourselves. And we need to identify what our triggers are. So yes, we're broke, and that's a major trigger. Then we're fasting. And there's this, would I say, African, is it slang or proverb that says an hungry man is an angry man. And research again has shown that moods are not usually as uplifted when someone is hungry as compared to when the person's filled, glucose level is lower and all that. So there's all that likelihood to be aggressive towards the children. But we need to remind ourselves, why are we fasting? We're fasting for Allah, and we're fasting so that Allah can help us to refresh and to click a renew button and to have a more spiritually uplifting life. And being broke is not the fault of our children. Absolutely, they have no blame in being broke. So when we think about this, it reminds us that we have an obligation to be warm towards them. We have an obligation to be nice to our children and to be humble enough to apologize when we do slip and get aggressive or transfer aggression to them. Because I wouldn't say that it's possible to be 100% able not to transfer this aggression. Maybe you're just back from work, you're tired, everything's just happening, and you're just like, oh, you these children, leave me alone. And they've not done anything. Well, familiar job. We have to be humble enough to call back and say, oh, Abdullah, I'm so sorry for the other time. I actually should not have snapped at you like that. It's not your fault. It's only that I had a very tiring and stressful day at work. I'm really sorry. Come to mommy, come. We have to be humble enough to do that. And I hope that helps too, inshallah. Let's also pray. Patience.
Now, Jazakumullah khairan. We've had an amazing chat with Mrs. Shakirat Olajobi, a psychologist and parenting coach, and we hope that everyone has taken something valuable to implement during this Ramadan. Some of the tips she has shared is that we should ensure we do storytelling. Storytelling can help us involve our children in our current situation. We shouldn't think that kids don't understand. Sometimes when you explain to them, they will actually understand and even look for ways to make things easier around the house. Also, charity doesn't come or doesn't have to be expensive. Even a smile is a charity. So make your kids understand that you should understand that yourself. So you don't have to go beyond your limits to do charity. She also mentioned that we can have conversations around the meals. Yeah, maybe you take turkey, chicken, and all of that, but for now you can't afford it. Have that conversation, talk to your kids, and look for other things you can eat that would be sufficient during the month of Ramadan. She also encouraged us to teach our kids the verse that talks about being grateful to Allah. If you are grateful, I will certainly give you more. We should know the verse, teach it to our children, and make it one of the things that we recall all the time. On gratitude, she encouraged us to do gratitude challenge with older children, gratitude jar for younger children where they get to put like a ballot of their gratitude per day in a jar. And then probably after Ramadan, you can review that with your children. She also talked about delayed gratification, which is a major thing for parents now. So if you teach that early to kids, it makes them better adults at the end of the day. And of course, on gratitude, we as parents must model it to them. So we should quit the habit of complaining about everything and anything. Nigeria is bad, there's no power supply and all of that. We should try as much as possible not to be too complaining and then engage the kids from whatever age they are. She mentioned that even in the kitchen, a 2-year-old can have something to do, even if it is to carry a fruit basket, like she said. So let's engage all our children. When we engage them, there's less burden on us as parents. I pray that Allah makes this beneficial to us and to the speaker as well. I want to say a big jazakumullah khairan to Mrs. Shakira. Thank you for making out time for us. May Allah make this count way heavily on your scale of good deeds, inshallah.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum
Ameen.
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.